The other thing, Christiane, I think to watch is Ron Paul.
Well, I was just going to ask you about that. Yeah.
Ron Paul is right now, he's second in Iowa. He's second in New Hampshire, and of all the people that are in the top tier, he has the most passion behind his candidacies. I would not be surprised at all, 7 weeks from now, that Ron Paul wins the Iowa caucuses and goes into New Hampshire and disrupts this field even more.
But really disrupt, or would it just be sort of a one-off for Ron Paul if he wins Iowa?
Oh, it would be disruptive. When you win Iowa, you go into New Hampshire with a certain amount of momentum. We all know this, and no one has ever taken Ron Paul seriously. Therefore, when Iowa does, everybody will stop and say, what the heck?
Let's stay with Ron Paul for just a second. You said look out for him in 6 weeks, 7 weeks. Look for him in 8 months. He's not running for Congress again. He could be a third-party candidate. He has dedicated people in place. If he got 4% of the vote, there are a whole number of states with their electoral votes he can tip over with those.
All right.
He would absolutely give the race to Obama.
Would you run as a third-party candidate?
I'm not going to do that. I'm not
No.
planning. No, I'm not having
You're not
any
planning?
plans. I have no plans to do that.
Not a no.
Somebody asked me the other day, why? Why do you say you won't plan to do that? Because I don't want to. No, and I'm in the middle of a hot campaign. So I want all the other candidates to be asked the same questions. You know?
But you would answer the call if you didn't get the
No,
Republican nomination.
I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying that I'm in the middle of a campaign. I'm campaigning very hard. I have no plans, no intention. And the reason why I have no plans, intention, because I just I don't want to do it.
All right.
Everybody in this town thinks there's going to be a third-party candidate, an independent candidate. If you don't get the Republican nomination, could that independent candidate be Ron Paul?
I don't think this is funny. Now, I also feel he has an obligation, if he is running in the Republican primary, to announce immediately, forthwith, what his intentions might be. Not for us to have to read his mind, or Sean in Washington, D.C., the great WMAL, my friend, not to have to look back 4 years ago and think about what he did. Don't we at least deserve, Sean, you're a Ron Paul supporter, don't the rest of us, and don't his supporters, at least deserve to know up front, he's a man who's straightforward, whether he would bolt or not?
If he decides to run as an independent, he has a base which is extremely loyal, and we know how large it is, and if he ran, he could hand the election to Obama. It would be the best thing for the Democrats in this entire cycle.
There is speculation that if you don't win, you might run as a third-party independent candidate. Can you state flatly that you will support the Republican nominee in the off chance that it isn't Ron Paul?
Well, you know, probably not unless I get to talk to them and find out what they really believe in. But if they believe in expanding the wars, if they don't believe in looking at the Federal Reserve, if they don't believe in real cuts, if they don't believe in deregulations and a better tax system, it would defy everything I believe in.
The content of that ad that we just talked about, attacking Republicans and Democrats, indicates that to me there's a fairly good chance that if he doesn't get the attention or respect or support he thinks he deserves in the nominating process, he could run as an independent, and he would be a tremendously important factor in that case.
Which would cause problems for Republicans.
Absolutely. It could cost him the election.
Would you ever run as a third-party candidate?
This third-party business, a lot of people worried Trump's going to do it. I think Ron Paul would do it. And if Ron Paul does it, we know that anybody after this nomination process is over is ticked off enough, it goes third party. That's it. You split the Republican vote. Then no third party candidate is going to win. No third party candidate is going to win beans in this election. All the third party candidate is going to do is secure victory for Obama. And if that happens, if somebody on our side goes third party, as far as I'm concerned, that's what they're trying to make happen.
Stephen Harris on Facebook sent us this question for you, Congressman. I would like a vow from him that he will not run as a third-party candidate. He has some good ideas, but if he were to run, he would effectively hand the crown to Obama for 4 more years. Hope he isn't this selfish. Congressman, what do you say to Stephen Harris?
Well, I don't plan to run. I'm not thinking about it. I'm in a good race. We're doing better. We're in either second or third place in both states. But I don't make vows over television programs.
I just said last week I have a gun to my head. I'll vote for Mitt Romney. And if it's Newt Gingrich and there's a third party and it's Ron Paul and I don't agree with his Middle Eastern policy at all, I might consider Ron Paul as a third party.
Keep your eyes on Ron Paul because the Texas congressman might have a major effect in the 2012 presidential race, whether or not he's the Republican nominee.
Are you ruling out a third party run at any point?
I have no plans to do that.
Are you ruling it out?
I'm not going to rule anything out or anything in. I don't talk in absolutes, and I stick to my position. We really have a very nice campaign going on, and people are recognizing this. And we have thousands of young people now that are campaigning for us, and the turnouts are just fantastic.
Well, to that point,
so for me to be distracted,
to that point, are you open to a third party run?
Thank you so much for joining us, sir. So does your father plan to stay in all the way to the convention? What's his strategy? What about the talk of your father possibly being a third-party candidate? Let me ask you, would you split with your party and support your father?
The Tea Party movement does say that it's not good enough just to be a Republican. They want Republicans who are conservative, so they've gotten involved in the primaries to try to determine who are the Republicans.
Does your father share that view, Senator, that he believes to stand in the Republican Party?
Well, you know, he kind of speaks for himself. He's rarely asked me to speak for him. But what I would say is that I take him at his word. He said repeatedly that he has no plans to run as a third-party candidate.
When I raised this very issue with your son, Senator Rand Paul, about you, because the rumors were out there, and you never really altogether quashed them, that you would run as an independent candidate if things didn't go the Republican route. What do you say?
Same thing I've said about 35 times and maybe 10 times on your program. I don't have a different answer. You know, no intention of doing it. But I think what I was hinting to a minute ago is maybe you ought to ask some of those moderate Republicans that aren't doing so well. Maybe they'll run as a John Anderson type candidate more so than asking me that question.
Everybody wants to know if you would seriously consider, if you don't get the GOP nomination, a run as an independent. Many believe that would fracture the GOP party and hand victory to President Obama.
Within weeks to go for this primary and to find out that we may come in first.
Now, let me ask you, would you rule out a third-party run?
Will you promise, if you don't win this nomination, and you're doing very well here in Iowa, that you will support the Republican nominee and not run third?
But wouldn't it be fair to ask the moderate Republicans that are competing to ask the same question?
I've been asking
John Anderson, approach John Anderson dropped out.